I was going to do something really clever and talk about tax and all sorts of fun things like that, but I thought, you know what I'll do is I'll talk about us. It's been a long time since I've just run through the team, run through WilderCoe, who we are, where we're from, and what we do. I seem to take it for granted that people understand what I do, and I'm sure that for some of you that's the case. But I also know from having had some one-to-ones, people have wildly different ideas as to what I do as an accountant, what I do as an auditor, and what we do as a firm, and where we are and how large we are. Firstly, round of applause for Richard there. Firstly, I'd just like to very quickly show you where we are. First off, where we are. We're in 2 locations. We are in London and Stevenage. Oh, I haven't moved this one. No, that's not going to work. See, my tech is already failing me. 25% maybe. There we go, we're in London and Stevenage. London, if you didn't know where London was, that's a Porsche. Stevenage up there, there's Stevenage. I'll come back to this, changing the route, that's impressive. Obviously the traffic's got worse. London and Stevenage, I'll come back to that in a second when I go through the team. But WilderCoe itself has been in existence for 41 years now. If you'd have had any stationery from us last year, it all had a lovely 40th anniversary little crest on it. It was very nice. Unfortunately, they've gone now, for apparently 41 years. Doesn't deserve a crest. It was formed originally by Robert Coe, that's C-O-E. That's the first mistake people make about WilderCoe, is they think that WilderCoe is Wilder Company. The Coe is the Coe, like Sebastian Coe, C-O-E. And a man called Ian Wilder. Now, Ian Wilder left the firm in the early 2000s to go off and become a councillor for Westminster, and was, if any of you were in London when the Formula 1 cars went up and down Regent Street, he was responsible for bringing that to Westminster. Sadly passed a few years back, but he's well remembered. He was a very crazy man apparently. He was also, as well as being an accountant, Shirley Bassey's manager for a while. So on the back of that we have a long heritage of having entertainment clients. Some who have recently been fired from the BBC, naming no names. Not my client. I've been in the elevator with him, very large man. Robert Coe is still with us. He's up there. He's up there. There we go. Top left. There's Robert Coe. I've worked with him for many years. When I first came to WilderCoe, I was actually hired to be his manager. So I did all the work and he took all the glory for several years. Until finally, about a year ago, I got promoted to partner. So now, if you scroll down, I have my own row. See right at the bottom there? My own row, that's me. Now, you'll see I don't look like me. And the reason why I don't look like me is because I haven't got my glasses on. The photographer, and no offence to the photographers here, had his own ideas about photography. And his own idea was he didn't like the way that the light looked like you could see through my head because of the strength of the prescription of my glasses, so it made me take them off. So I've got no glasses. I think that's ridiculous because then people don't recognise me. But anyway, there I am at the bottom. I'm going to very quickly go through the people, who they are, what they do. Now most of the partners here do very similar things to what I do. I'm in the corporate team. I deal with UK companies. So first off, British. Second, companies. Okay. I do the accounting and the tax for those companies. So anything to do with a UK corporate, I am the first port of call. Similar to me, all of the other partners are the first port of call as well in corporate world. Robert Coe deals with that. Stephen deals with that. Mark deals with that. Michael deals with that. So does Jitendra. Now we get on to the interesting beat, the more esoteric parts of the business, the stranger, more weird and wonderful. Norman Cowan actually lives up in Stevenage. If you've forgotten where Stevenage is, it's up there. He's in our insolvency department. We're in the insolvency department up there because we don't want them infecting the rest of our healthy businesses. If you can see him down at the bottom there, there's Panos Papas. He's also in our insolvency division. He's been with us for a year. Norman's been with us for probably about 20 odd years. And they essentially, they call themselves business recovery. Most normal human beings know them as insolvency. So if you hear of a business that sounds like it's in distress, you can pass them on to me because they will assist. They deal with creditors' voluntary liquidations, they deal with directors' voluntary liquidations, and they can advise on CVAs and other ways that might actually save the business in the long term. A CVA is a creditors' voluntary arrangement whereby everyone agrees to just take a bit less from the business before, so that it survives and so they get something rather than nothing if a company is going down the tubes. Tim Cook is our head of personal tax. So So he's the main man when it comes to all the tax schemes that everyone hates so much these days. All those things that Take That did, which was perfectly legal but rather unpopular. He's the guy who can advise you not to do that these days. Then you've got B Chew. So B Chew heads up our what's the word for it? I've completely forgotten what the word for it is. Forensic, that's the word, forensic division. The word forensic had gone out of my head. Now forensic accounting is a strange one. It's not using a magnifying glass to see where the blood splatter is. It's primarily business valuation. And primarily business valuation in contentious situations. I do quite a bit of business valuation in non-contentious situations. For example, if you want to sell some shares to someone, and you want to make sure you've got a good business valuation so that the revenue, the naughty revenue, doesn't think that you're pulling a fast one for tax purposes, like giving someone something for cheap in lieu of salary. I can do that side of things, but the sort of business valuations B does is when there's a divorce. So if there's been a divorce and the two parties, the husband thinks the wife's company, see I did it that way around so as to not be sexist, the husband thinks the wife's company is worth far more than she says it's worth, then you need to get in a third party to do a valuation, and they can provide expert witness in court as well. So she'll be the one who stands up in court and says, I think the business is worth this, the other side will have their accountant who will be their expert witness will say it's worth this, and then obviously the lawyers do their thing. Going further down, we have Robert Bradman. And you should feel sorry for Robert Bradman. The reason why you should feel sorry for Robert Bradman is he shared an office with me for the last 7 years. Just the two of us in that office with clear windows so we can see the rest of the team and keep an eye on them, but he shares an office with me. And about a year ago he got promoted to also head up our Stevenage accounting support division. Our accounting support division does all of the sort of stuff that your bookkeeper would do for you, but for large companies. I mean, some of their clients are Asus Computers, is one of their clients. Just to give you an idea, so these are companies that have come from overseas primarily and decided to set up in the UK and gone, right, how do we do this, chaps? And we've just set them up with everything, bank accounts, lawyers, everything, the whole smorgasbord, payroll, VAT, and we do it all for them because they're not interested in running their own back office. So that's what our accounting support division does. They also do it for some smaller businesses who are really interested in having a very secure system, because one of the issues with having just a single one-man bookkeeper is if they get hit by a bus, you're up a certain creek, which I nearly said, which wouldn't have been professional when being videoed, without a paddle. But with accounting support division, you've got all of the different layers, you've got partners, managers, and the staff, so that if one of them gets hit by a bus, you don't have all of your data compromised. Then we've got Ian Saunders. Ian Saunders is the most important man in the office. He's company secretarial. He does company formation work. He does, if you ever want to sell some shares to someone, he produces all the paperwork. He does very basic share purchase agreements. He does all of that sort of thing. If you want to get an extension to your filing deadline, he's the one who does the one-page form that enables you to do it really easily. So Ian's really massively important. Ross Welland, if Marlena had been in the room, I would have pointed out that Ross Welland's had some really good times with Marlena. He gave her some personal tax advice himself, and he's also assisting one of her clients now. He is a really good personal tax guy, and corporate tax as well. He's been with us for about a year. Panos I've already mentioned, and then there's me. In terms of introductions, for myself, as I've said, companies, what size though? We're a medium-sized firm. The sorts of companies that we want are anywhere from your startup with ambition, so that's the 100, 200,000 pound business where they want to grow it, up to we've got some major high street retail companies that could be listed if they weren't family owned. So we can go anywhere up to there. I really would like to get an audit client out of the room. That would be something with a turnover of around about 10 million. If you can find me one of those, I would be absolutely delighted. But anything in between, I'm willing to punt a lot of my time personally into any client that you get me. So they will. So I have to charge all of the rest of my team for the appropriate charge rates, but myself I'm willing to punt quite a lot of my time, especially if they're members of this group, because I can see them before and after. The tax guys, anyone who has a personal tax return that needs submitting, that is too complicated for them to do it themselves, we can assist. Particularly if you've got a lot of property, or particularly if you are in some way non-domiciled, popular word with Ed Miliband at the moment, because there are things that we can do until he decides to get in and change the rules. Obviously with Norman and Panos, if you hear distressed, if you hear I can't pay our creditors, if you hear I'm trying to put off our creditors, anything like that, put them onto me and I can introduce them to Panos or Norman. One of the things to stress is anyone that you put onto me, I will deal with. I will be the node, I will be the point of contact, and I will be the person who helps them deal with the right people within the firm. I won't just abandon them, I won't just pass them over to someone else, I will be the point of contact. One last thing, Robert's other speciality that I hadn't mentioned is solicitors, and he's now helping Alex. So there we go. That's WilderCoe. Any questions?